Hello from the World Economic Forum here in Geneva. My name is Mark Rayner. I'm representing the Center for the New Economy and Society, and it's a great pleasure to join you today as you discuss the future of education policy in the Czech Republic. I'm delighted to be able to tell you about some insights from the Future of Jobs report, which was recently published. You can get all the details online, and I'll share the link that you can go to later. Why would the Future of Jobs report be useful for you today? Well, the Future of Jobs report leverages the forum's network of business partners, large and small, across 27 sectors and industries, which are represented in countries across the globe, including a strong statistical sample in the Czech Republic. We ask chief learning officers, chief human resources officers, and their peers about what their plans are for their business strategies, talent and personnel policies, upskilling policies in the coming 5 years in order to achieve their business goals. So it's a good way to take the temperature of the business world and see what skills are needed in which jobs, and hopefully that can help you tailor your decision-making as you plan the future. What's the top line for the report? Well, we expect a picture of churn. These are the 673 million jobs, each dot represents a million, which we were able to model based on the representativeness of our sample. As you can see, the red jobs and the green jobs are about the same number. These represent the jobs which will be lost in the next 5 years and which we expect at current rates of change to be created in the next 5 years. Overall, they roughly balance, and it's a picture of churn. About a quarter of jobs will churn. The three main drivers we expect to be the green transition, which we overwhelmingly expect to create jobs based on our respondents' replies. Technology adoption, which will have a dual effect, both job creation and displacement, new jobs for new technologies, but also automation, and the economic outlook, the rising cost of living, supply shortages and disruptions, effects such as that. The full details are in the report. These are all expected, unsurprisingly, unfortunately, to displace jobs. The technological picture also is quite interesting in the Czech Republic. Overall, companies operating in your region are rather less optimistic about the job creation potential of technology, with a few exceptions of new materials research, nanotechnology, and indeed 3D, 4D printing, where you're rather ahead of the curve in terms of job creation, perhaps representing and reflecting investments in research in recent years. Let's delve down a little bit, though, into the particular jobs, because I know we have several career counselors in the room. And again, the full report is the place to get the details. But these are the jobs which, in real terms, we expect to see the greatest growth and decline in the next 5 years. We see among them, you'll be pleased to see, vocational education teachers, university higher education teachers, and special education teachers being among the jobs which, at least via our jobs taxonomy, should see the greatest growth in the next 5 years. We can also look at the jobs which are growing most quickly as a fraction of current employment numbers. Previously, it was the raw numbers. These are a fraction of current employment. This allows us to pick out the jobs which may not have great numbers now, but which companies expect to hire significant numbers in the next few years. These may be of interest for your students. And given your topic today of AI and gamification, we see some interesting candidates here. AI machine learning specialists, business intelligence, financial technologies, data analysis, digital transformation. These are some of the jobs of the future. And indeed, we should, our respondents say, be optimistic about the labor market impacts of big data and AI. Big data analytics is overwhelmingly expected to create jobs by our respondent companies. Artificial intelligence is also expected to be a driver of jobs. And indeed, as is traditional, the Future Jobs report, we can also take a different perspective. We can take a step back and look at the sweeping landscape of automation in the future, what we call the human-machine frontier. This top bar shows that our respondents estimate that 34% of work tasks are currently automated, leaving 66% to be done manually by human beings. Now, that is expected to increase by 2027 to almost half, to 43% of work tasks automated, 57% done by humans. So automation is increasing. But increasingly, we suspect that it's a question not so much of automation, but augmentation. And indeed, if you compare this to the previous report, the march towards greater automation has actually been much slower than our companies previously anticipated. And they've also revised down their estimations, suggesting, as I say, that the future is augmentation just as much as automation, which is good news for workers. This is also reflected in workforce strategies. These are the strategies which our respondent businesses say they are most likely to adopt to achieve their goals. 81% of our companies say that they will achieve their goals by investing in learning and training on the job, pretty much tied in first place with the 80% of companies who say that they will accelerate automation. These two processes should go hand in hand. And as we'll see later, humans will remain part of the loop because companies care very much about investing in the skills related to AI and big data. The flip side of this, the flip side, is to discuss the barriers to business transformation that companies expect to face. What will stop them achieving their goals in the next 5 years? Well, the message here is loud and clear. It's skills gaps, and it's an inability to attract talent. This is ahead of regulatory frameworks, skills gaps in the leadership, and even investment capital. And the situation is somewhat more acute in the Czech Republic than elsewhere. The numbers who identify these two barriers are higher than elsewhere in the world. And indeed, the concerns about talent availability are, twice as great in the Czech Republic as globally. There's half the optimism for the future. So how do businesses plan to address this talent shortage? Well, the top three approaches that they plan to implement are to improve talent progression, promotion, offer higher wages, and provide effective reskilling and upskilling. Quite interestingly, though, is also the bottom of the list, and I encourage you to read the full report for the details, because there's a lot of information here, both globally and for the Czech Republic. Right at the bottom, though, only 6% of companies plan to remove degree requirements and conduct skills-based hiring. This may change, however, as companies get to grips with this talent shortage and the fact that workers will have to change jobs several times during their career. Also interesting is what businesses want government to do. And among public policies, it's interesting to note that 41% of Czech companies quote improvements to school systems as an effective public policy to improve talent availability, this key challenge. This is rather ahead of the global rate and the rate in high-income countries. And now let's turn quite explicitly in the second half of this presentation to the education system in particular. A related report, which we recently published, estimated that 49% of people work in jobs unrelated to their formal education. We encourage you to download this, Putting Skills First, a Framework for Action. This is our approach, this skills first approach to making sure that learning is a lifelong activity, that lifelong learning is something that workers pursue, not just at school, but throughout the whole of their lives. And at the forum, we believe that this was going to be crucial to helping workers adapt to the future. Because businesses have a tough challenge ahead of them. The businesses we surveyed estimate that of a representative sample of 6 workers, 6 of them will require training before 2027 to be able to do their jobs. Of the 61%, it's interesting to note that 18% will be upskilled in post, 16% will be upskilled and then redeployed within the organization. But the remaining 27% require training but the businesses do not anticipate being able to give it to them in the next 5 years. Also sobering is the skills instability, a key number in our report. You'll recall that we estimate the jobs churn to be 23%. 23% of jobs we expect to change in the next 5 years, where a declining job is replaced by a growing job. However, even greater than that, our respondents estimate that 44% of workers' core skills will change in the next 5 years. This then reflects the challenges for you as educators throughout the whole education system, from primary to tertiary education. The question we have there is, what skills are the skills of the future? Let's begin by looking at the top 10 skills of 2023. Now, of course, it's important when looking at this to ask in what taxonomy we're discussing these skills. This is relative to the global skills taxonomy, which is published annually by the World Economic Forum. You can look at it on our Reskilling Revolution website. Here, there are 26 skills, which we other skills which we estimate to be sort of cross-functional across companies, and the sort of transferable skills that workers might need to do any particular job. Of those 26, these are the top 10 that businesses evaluate are most important to their workers today. At the top, we see cognitive skills. Now, these are, of course, strongly related to the future's literacy skills, which we're going to be discussing in a fortnight with UNESCO, and I'm delighted you're having that discussion. It'll be fantastic. Behind those cognitive skills, we also see more futures literacy skills: resilience, flexibility, agility, motivation, self-awareness, curiosity, and lifelong learning. Here we see now a focus on self-efficacy skills, perhaps representing the tumult that workers have been experiencing in the pandemic labor market. And we see some interesting candidate skills further down. However, we also asked businesses, what are the skills you're focusing on for the next 5 years? What are you going to be investing your money in upskilling and reskilling your workers to be able to do? We might also infer that these are the skills that are most in need. Where are the skills gaps? What are the skills that employers value most? This list may be of particular interest. These top 10 skills we see are also dominated by cognitive skills at the top. However, in third place, we see that AI and big data, again, your theme today, has jumped right up the list, about 12 spaces, followed by another one which has jumped up the list: leadership and social influence. And I strongly encourage you to download our report and read about these skills movements in detail, because they're a fascinating window onto what employers want. And I would argue that futures literacy, not a skill in our taxonomy, I would argue that it incorporates a cocktail of these skills. I think with that, you're onto something good in terms of looking at what employers will want for the future. It's also very much in line with our work at the forum on what we call Education 4.0. A final then check perspective is looking at what skill trends there are in the next 5 years in your country in particular, in the at least relative to the businesses who responded to our survey who operate in the Czech Republic. It's interesting to see that the top 3 skills on the rise in the Czech Republic, far in advance in some cases of the global priority placed on these skills, are technological literacy, analytical thinking, and flexibility, resilience, and agility. Just as interesting, though, are the skills which companies operating in the Czech Republic are not focusing on, which are in particular leadership and social influence, for which about half of the emphasis is placed, empathy and active listening, for which about 1/5 of the relative global influence is placed, and creative thinking, which actually comes top. Globally is seen to be the fastest rising skill in importance. However, in the Czech Republic, companies ascribe it only 1/4 of its future importance. Food for thought, perhaps, on how the Czech Republic compares in philosophy to globally in terms of the skills of the future. Well, it has been a great pleasure to talk to you. I wish I could join you, and I wish you every good fortune as you look forward to the future of education in the Czech Republic. I encourage you to follow this QR code to download the website. You can also use data explorers, which show you the future of jobs and skills, both as a function of country, of region in the world, of income bracket, and indeed of those 27 sectors that I mentioned before. Goodbye and many thanks.